AI agents are everywhere, automating tasks and making decisions at machine speed. But agents make mistakes. Just one rogue agent can do big damage before you even notice. Rubrik Agent Cloud is the only platform that helps you monitor agents, set guardrails, and rewind mistakes, so you can unleash agents, not risk. Accelerate your AI transformation at Rubrik.com. That's RUBRIK.com.
I'm Kourtney Smith.
And I'm Elyse Sharp.
And we are two nerds who are here to make Shakespeare easier to understand.
In this podcast, we will explore as many dimensions to Shakespeare's plays as we can by looking at the text, examining the historical context in which the plays were written, and how his plays are viewed through modern lenses of feminism, racism, classism, colonialism, nationalism, ableism, all of the isms.
We will discuss how his plays shaped both the past and present, and, as theater makers, how his plays can be responsibly performed today, all while trying our best to approach his works without giving in to bardolatry.
So, Shakespeare Anyone?
Hi, listeners. Want to support Shakespeare Anyone? Visit shakespeareanyone.com/support or check out the links in our episode description. Now, onto the episode.
Hi, Kourtney.
Hi, Elyse. How's it going?
It's going pretty well. How about you?
I'm also doing well. For the listeners, this is before the holidays. Right now, Elyse and I are preparing for our holiday break. And so that's something that's like on top of mind. But by the time you're listening to the episode, I'm sure Elyse and I have had a lovely break full of rest and relaxation. And then also the winter holidays coming up, which actually leads us into this topic that we're bringing to you today. Speaking of winter holidays. But before we get into the episode, the first thing in our housekeeping that we want to do is 2025 is coming to an end, and we want to thank all of our Patreon patrons who have supported during, at one point or another, or throughout the year 2025. So thanks, and ever thanks to our Patreon patrons, Katie Smith,
Shelby Kalani Gage,
Nat Yance,
Elizabeth Sharman,
Clocky McDowell,
Megan McGrory,
Devin Smith,
Alan Carlson,
Gwen,
Liz Swafield,
Kiara,
Kim Swafield,
Cuban,
David Weiss,
April,
Kara Schuster,
Julie at Blue Mountain Rose,
Lisa Vanderkolk,
Ashton Francine,
Ann Mokler,
Sujata Nigam,
Sue,
Kathleen Owen,
Meg Helmus,
Paul Hopkins,
Kelly,
Kinsey Simons,
Jennifer Bruce,
Nick,
Benjamin Richardson,
Michelle Buxman,
Ina Carranza. Thank you again for being part of our Patreon community this year in 2025, and we hope that you'll join us again next year. Oh, and one last piece of housekeeping. Just so you know, all of our merch on our website is 15% off for the rest of the month of December. You don't need a code. Just head to shakespeareanyone.com/shop, add things to your cart, and the discount should automatically apply at checkout.
Okay.
We are doing some watches of 12 Nights. Kourtney, why are we doing our 12th Night wrap-up again? Didn't we already do this?
Yes. So Twelfth Night was our second play of Shakespeare Anyone, and we decided after Macbeth that maybe instead of just discussing different adaptations based on academic articles and little blurbs, we should watch a few adaptations and performances and discuss them. And so we did that. We watched and discussed four productions. We watched and discussed the 1996 Trevor Nunn movie, the National Theater from 2017, the Globe from 2012, and She's the Man. And if you are a longtime listener, you would know that we only released our discussion about She's the Man. And that is because early in our podcasting, I had an external hard drive that decided that once the files were on my external hard drive, it was going to completely die on me and hold hostage these files that I needed to edit and release the episode. So that discussion that we had
Lost to time.
lost to an external hard drive that betrayed us. And so we decided we have a bonus episode that we need to fill for the year. And why not just redo that viewing and have a new discussion and bring it to all of you?
Especially since, since that episode, we have really solidified what our wrap-ups are. And we know that there are listeners out there who really enjoy hearing how we analyze these works. So we have gone back, not to our notes from 4 or 5 years ago, but we have rewatched them and have new notes coming from us today in 2025, or something that we did for that episode that we haven't done since, but you never heard it, is that Kourtney watched the Globes, but I didn't, and I watched the Nationals, but she didn't, and we told each other about them. And we have since learned that we really like coming together and talking about watching the same thing.
Yeah.
So there are some that we are watching again and some that we are watching for the first time.
Yes. And it's also perfect because Twelfth Night is a reference to a medieval and Renaissance, an early modern really holiday, the Twelfth Night holiday. And so this is going to be coming out just around the Twelfth Night holiday, give or take a few weeks.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're feeling really inspired to celebrate Twelfth Night, maybe you'll also join us in watching some of these Twelfth Nights to prepare for the Twelfth Night holiday.
So as Kourtney said, the 3 productions that we are going to be discussing today are the 1996 Trevor Nunn film, the Globe's 2012 production, and the National Theatre's 2017 production. Things off, we are going to discuss the 1996 film directed by Trevor Nunn, which stars Imogen Stubbs as Viola, Ben Kingsley as Feste, Helena Bonham Carter as Olivia, Nigel Hawthorne as Malvolio, Imelda Staunton as Mariah, Toby Stevens as Orsino, and Richard E. Grant as Sir Andrew Aguecheek, among others.
Yeah. So let's go ahead and get into the Trevor Nunn film. This film is one that prior to us watching it in our original 12th Night series, I had never seen.
Same.
But it's the kind of 12th Night that I could see a teacher in an English class rolling out the cart with the film and putting in the VHS and playing it for students, or the DVDs, or streaming it. But
the laser discs.
Yeah. It's the version that I could see teachers in English classes showing to their students because of its accessibility.
Yeah. To me, it does a really good job of melding the media of film with a Shakespeare play. Trevor Nunn really directs the heck out of this. And something that I love that they do is starts with a bit of an introduction to the idea of there are these twins and that there is a shipwreck. So it starts with a ship. We're going to talk about how all these start, I think.
Yeah.
Since that is something that productions decide to change up with Twelfth Night. So this one does start with a shipwreck, but it starts even before that. And we get to see Viola and Sebastian interact together and see that they do look a lot alike.
And gender bending is not new to the twins. They are performers that gender bend and like play the piano and sing as kind of like lounge performers. The film is very Edwardian, perhaps. I'm not entirely sure of the exact time period, but it's very...
I would say it's Edwardian.
Yeah. And then also, speaking of the cinematography and leaning into that, there are so many scenes where we are shown, not told, which I think is always super effective in a film. It's a good alternative. We talked about Henry V and the chorus, and it can be kind of goofy when someone's telling you something, but also simultaneously showing you it. And it's like, in some ways, it's like if you're going to change the medium, maybe change the language or cut the language.
We get a little bit of that, because we skip straight to 1-2 after the shipwreck, because this film makes the choice that Viola is our main character, and therefore we are going to follow Viola's point of view for a while once we introduce her.
Yeah.
And it takes some liberties with how Orsino and Olivia are introduced, and that we get to see them as the captain is talking about them.
Yeah, it works.
Mm-hmm.
That I think is something that's very effective for this film because it feels like a film versus a play on camera. The one thing that I think prohibited my enjoyment of Twelfth Night, the story, is that the tone was not Twelfth Night, Shakespeare's Twelfth Night.
I wrote, this is a romantic Twelfth Night. This is not a laugh out loud funny Twelfth Night. This is if Downton Abbey did Twelfth Night, or your favorite film or TV adaptation of Pride and Prejudice did Twelfth Night, or the film adaptation of like The Secret Garden that I watched when I was a kid did Twelfth Night. Like it's very English countryside romance, not laugh out loud funny.
Yeah, and then when we get to the prank plot, in some ways it feels Oscar Wilde-esque, but it's very talking head Shakespeare.
Yes. I will say though, again, like it works for the choice that was made of like, if Viola is our main story, then this is how it's going to be told, and this is the setting, and everything cohesively works. It's not a Brana adaptation where things are like all of a sudden
huge.
Yes, it's actually, everything is small and sometimes even underplayed. So it's Trevor Nunn has done a really good job of directing his actors for film.
Yeah. And I think, speaking, because we have to speak about this as if it's a different medium because it's not on stage. I think it's very effective in some ways, and it's a bit detrimental in other ways. Like, it's really great for establishing the closeness of the characters and the intimacy and the relationship of some of these characters, especially the like love triangle plot. And then the part that's to me not as effective is the prank and
the Malvolio
plot.
Yeah.
That subplot just is lost on me because it's not over the top, laugh out loud. And then at a certain point it feels like, oh man, they're just so mean to Malvolio.
Yeah. It's not the easiest to follow why it's happening. And yeah, I agree with all that. I do think, though, what you said earlier of like, ultimately, like if you are introducing someone or like a classroom full of people to Twelfth Night for the first time and you want to make sure that they understand like the core story of Viola, Orsino, Olivia, this does that really effectively, and then would supplement with productions that are more laugh out loud funny for the Sir Toby, Sir Andrew festy, because Ben Kingsley also is a very somber festy. And this is a piece where the mourning of Olivia's house is very present.
Yeah, I agree with you that I would introduce this into a classroom with a contrasting piece that shows like the topsy-turviness, because one of the major components is everything is topsy-turvy. Roles are not as they seem. The, peasant is now the king. And that's very absent in this. But there is a really great like tenderness to like a poeticism to this film. Like a romance, I guess.
Yeah. It's romantic.
Yeah.
And you do like root for Orsino and Viola at the end. I think it's one of the best like versions of the moment where he says, let me see thee in thy woman's weeds, thou shalt, your master's mistress part,
Yeah.
You actually believe that he's like fallen, that this Orsino is incredible is what I'm getting to, is, and you really get that he loves Viola. And
then at the end we get a wedding. Everything has returned, and we do see that Orsino and Viola are together. Viola is wearing her woman's weeds, and they've ended up married, and the same thing goes for Olivia and Sebastian. One thing I thought was strange, though, is that I noticed at the end of the movie with the wedding, I was like, Viola and Orsino are making out, and then Olivia and Sebastian are making out. But then while each couple is making out, Viola and Sebastian are like holding hands, which I like. There's a closeness to these two twins, though. I will say that this film does a really great job establishing that these two are super close. I just thought it was a little bit strange.
Yeah.
But I don't know, maybe it's more symbolic. And that's honestly like not a big wrench in the entire film. It was just something that I saw that I was like, did you see that?
No, I didn't. I don't think I've ever caught that.
Okay. Well,
I'll have to rewatch and find it again.
Yeah.
Yeah, overall, I would say, is this my favorite Twelfth Night that we're going to talk about? No, but it might be my favorite, like, Shakespeare to film adaptation that we've watched so far.
Yeah, I think you might be right because I think I agree. I'm trying to go through the Rolodex of all of the Shakespeare on film we've watched, and it's like Twelfth Night, Much Ado,
Henry V,
Hamlet.
Romeo and Juliet.
Yeah. And I think that I agree with you that like Much Ado, well, Twelfth Night is my favorite, and then Much Ado is the second.
Yeah. Next up, let's talk about the Globe's 2012 production. This production was directed by Tim Carroll and features Mark Rylance as Olivia, Stephen Fry as Malvolio, and Johnny Flynn as Viola, among others.
Mm-hmm.
And you had seen this one before. We watched it originally,
Yes.
however many years ago.
Yes. I've already seen this production and I really enjoyed it when I first watched it, and I do still really enjoy it. I think it's a very enjoyable 12th night. I think that there is a lot of comedy that is brought to this particular production. There's a lot of space that the actors let jokes breathe. I always love open air thrust stages for Shakespeare because I love it when actors get to connect with the audience and bring the audience in. And the thing that was missing from the Trevor Nunn was that like topsy-turvy social order is totally in chaos. And this one brought that. So like the aristocracy, you know, Olivia and Orsino and Sir Toby and Sir Andrew Aguecheek, they were all such fools. And that was a really nice contrast to me to the fool and like the commentary in that play in this play about like wit versus fools and like witty fools, foolish wit. All of that really like shined through in this production.
Yeah. I think there are a lot of good things about this production. It has moments that do make it a really solid 12th night. I'm so glad that you called out Sir Toby, Sir Andrew, and Festi and Fabian. I think that they are excellent comedic relief in this. I think that Olivia also has some good funny moments. Mariah, for me, is a highlight in this one. And I think that there's really fun staging. Toby has yellow stockings at the very beginning. I thought that was phenomenal. Such a tiny little choice. Toby has hidden alcohol. It's one of the better like twins costuming I've ever seen. Those two do look identical. And also good like box tree. That scene is incredibly difficult to stage, to have 3 or 4 people hidden on stage while somebody else is like and commenting on what's happening while Malvolio is reading the letter and finding the letter. This one had a really great solution for that.
And Fabian is the actor that played Fabian was Caliban in The Tempest that we just watched.
Wow. I also really liked the fights. The Cesario, Andrew, Antonio fight. Olivia breaking up the Toby and Sebastian fight. Really funny. Some of the biggest laughs for me personally came from the fight choreography or lack thereof in both. But I do have a couple of criticisms about this one. I think I'll start with the one that I don't think you have.
Okay.
I have an issue with the pace of this. I think that there are moments where the phrasing of the dialogue is interrupted for not breath, not for something to land, but at the worst moments, Mark Rylance to just move around on stage in silence. And this is a 12th night that is 3 hours long. And the majority of that seems to come from pacing decisions of moments in silence that are like interrupting a thought, interrupting a speech to make a very broad choice in movement or to just like sit in silence for a while. And for me, there's comedy that's lost in this one. To me, while it does have funny moments, it's still a bit serious in some of these characters, and some of these moments are, just a little bit like, I watched it on 2 times speed, and there were moments that felt like 2 times speed, and then there were scenes that I could listen to, and they sounded like they were at a normal speaking pace. my one critique is pace
Okay. Yeah, I
for
think that
this.
we just don't agree on the pace, which is fine.
Yeah. And I think that like I'm saying like there's a difference between like moments where like something breathed and like we let the laugh happen, and then there's moments where the laugh only happened because we were sitting in silence for so long.
Is is this a majority Mark Rylance's Olivia comment?
This is majority of Mark Rylance's Olivia comment.
Because
Yeah.
I see what you're saying, and I know that I saw like self-indulgence coming out of Mark Rylance's depiction of Olivia, like making move like Mark Rylance's movement was very funny upon entrance, I think. There's this illusion with the dress and the
Mm-hmm.
way that Mark Rylance is going around the stage as if Mark Rylance is just kind of floating on stage with like tiny little walks and a dress that you
Mm-hmm.
can't see the feet. And it's very funny, but then that joke gets repeated often and interrupts.
Yes. And I think this is also a Stephen Fry note of there's a bit that like is funny. He does do a funny bit. It is a funny bit. It's just like my personal taste is that it could have been tightened up a hair. My personal comedic taste is this could have been the tiniest bit shorter and it wouldn't have felt like I'm watching an actor do a bit. It would have felt
Mm,
like it could have been funnier if it
yeah,
was just a little quicker, if it
yeah.
happened a little faster.
And those are the two actors too who have like out of the cast, they're like the big ticket names. Like they're the
Mm-hmm.
ones that I imagine. I'm not here to make judgments on Mark Rylance or Stephen Fry, but I could see them like milking things too long because
Or the production built it around them and around the idea that
mm,
because of their celebrity, the audience would accept this. When maybe it wasn't actually the best. I think I'm going, for me, a better version of this production has these moments. Mark Rylance's movement as Olivia, I enjoy it. But again, like you said, it repeats and it repeats in ways that are unnecessary.
yeah,
There's moments where I just went, this tipped into I'm watching an actor wait for the reaction that he wants the audience to give him versus a character is having a realization and a joke is happening. That's again my personal preference and my
I can see
critiques.
that. I can see that because the rest of the cast, like so much of the comedy with Sir Toby, Sir Andrew, Fabian was so tight, so clear.
Their
So
pace is great.
Mariah, yeah, yeah.
And so
So
it feels like two different shows for me. That's why I mean like the pacing.
I can see.
But now let's talk about the thing that we both, I think, have, which is this is an all male cast, which is part of the Globe's original practice productions. And I think something that, on the one hand, I think is a cool thing to see once, a cool thing to have an example of what this could have looked like in Shakespeare's time. I think that 13 years later, is it effective? Is it a choice that gives us anything more than a sort of gimmick? Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting novelty. And from an academic standpoint, there is language and there are moments that have a little bit of like, oh, this could have been the joke about, this is the joke about the apprentices, the boy actors that we don't get when we have
Mm-hmm.
a woman's body in that role, like the buttery bar, all of that kind of stuff. Like that is something that it's like those are moments that are more visible with the in joke about the casting decisions in Shakespeare's time that are academically interesting and fun to see, especially like as an academic being like, oh, we studied this play and we were studying, XYZ, we're studying this time period. But it seems like that's kind of the role where it should stay is like this is a novelty that you can see as like a kind of tourism or for academic purposes, but as an actual repeated practice, it then to me leans into the possibility of basically having very restrictive casting. Like,
Mm-hmm.
we're not going to see women actors, non-binary actors. They were all actors who were white. So we're going to exclude anyone who we perceive as not being originally cast in this role
Mm-hmm.
because we are going for this attempt at authenticity for Shakespeare's time. So I'm really glad that the Globe does not do this practice anymore. I could imagine like one run of something, but then it leans into territory that
Yeah.
becomes, we only cast this because of that.
Yeah. I also think that as you put it, the jokes that, may have originally been in there commenting on the body of a young male actor in the boys' company, when you have an adult man playing these roles and you have a modern audience sitting watching, it made me wonder how many of these laughs are, I don't know if the layers of I'm hearing language that's meant to be delivered to a boy actor is what everyone's hearing, or if it is reinforcing a man in a dress trope, which then isn't what those jokes were necessarily intended to do either.
Yeah, yeah. And I think it is important to note that from my watch, I don't think that the actors playing the women roles were doing anything like we're mocking. I
I
mean,
think that there were some who were better at playing the character
yeah,
that they were playing, and then there were some who may, and again, not knowing the actors, not seeing them in anything else, who may have affected some femininity when they were in their roles. I'm going to say my example of the former, of somebody who just, to me, played the role as written, is the actor who played Mariah.
yeah,
Who deserves a shout out real quick, who would be Paul Chahidi.
yeah. I really enjoyed Mariah.
To me, that was an actor playing the role as written, and Paul did things as Mariah that I was like, oh, I want to steal that when I have someone else in that role. That's a choice that anybody in that role could make. But was it a joke that people were laughing at more because it was a man in a dress? Those are the things that I just kept coming back to.
Mm-hmm.
And that had nothing to do with Paul's performance for me. That had everything to do with, like, what is this audience responding to?
Mm-hmm. Those questions didn't really pop up for me quite so much. So I'd be interested to go back and watch some of the performances and like see. I think that like I saw Mark Rylance attempting to be Queen Elizabeth-esque.
Mm-hmm.
That was something that popped up for me. And so I saw this attempt at. So one of the things that we talked about in our original 12th Night series was this idea of the court
Mm-hmm.
being
Yeah.
older and there being this like whole new comedy that cracks open when you look at these characters through the lens of Queen Elizabeth and Robert Dudley, the first Earl of Leicester, and any of
Right.
Elizabeth's court, the aging court, and how foolish it is for older people to be acting so juvenile in love.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was something I think that this production did really well. A question is, could the same thing have happened if you have very good comedic women actors?
I think yes.
And I agree.
Mm-hmm. And then it would not have the layer of, again, it's like, but also Mark may be doing that. And like, as people who have studied that, we may go, oh, I think he's doing that. How many people sat there and just thought he was putting on a voice and doing some funny lady stuff? Like intent versus impact with,
100,
with some of those
100%.
choices.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, I totally think that somebody could steal. He's got a great like shoe falling off bit in the second scene with Cesario, and then like having a little like fit when he still doesn't have a shoe at the very end.
Mm-hmm.
He's got some good moments, and I do see that. I did also pick up on like, oh, he's doing like a Queen Elizabeth I type of thing. He's trying to suggest that.
Yeah,
So I do think that's in there.
yeah. I guess the moral of the story at the end of this is if you're going to make these kinds of choices, there has to be that careful consideration. There are these questions about, like you said, intent versus impact. And I would say across the board, I think that the impact was like low damage, but I see what you're saying. So I'm not gonna like, I don't know where to end this, but I don't know. I feel like I had a really great time watching it.
Mm-hmm.
It was very, very enjoyable to me. I did so much laughing. I thought that there were some sharp choices that made what was happening super clear. One of the things that I struggle with sometimes is when I'm watching a production where I don't think the actors know what they're saying,
Mm-hmm.
therefore I don't know what they're saying. And so, yeah, this one was like a very high one for me in terms of like enjoyment.
I feel like I talked like I hated it. I did not hate it. I have strong feelings about Twelfth Night now, stronger feelings than I think I did even 4 years ago. about how this play works.
Mm-hmm.
And I know this play really even better than I did 4 years ago. And I just think that, like, I'm reacting to like my own personal taste in comedy.
Yeah.
This is not a bad production. For me, it's not my favorite. I wish there was more fun overall in this. Like, I know it has some of the topsy-turvy. For me, there's still just like this very serious Twelfth Night. It's sort of like in the middle in terms of like goofy serious. It has its merits. There are things that like I would take from this one though. Yeah. It's just a bit of a mixed bag for me. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I think there's a lot to steal from it. And one of the things that I think is a really important thing that you're bringing up is this idea of intent versus impact, the like consequences of deciding that you're only going to cast a certain way and you're only going to put certain bodies in certain roles and what those mean to the audience. And one of the questions that I have about this production is how much of it would have still been like sharp, as funny, as topsy-turvy if instead of casting quote unquote original practice, if they cast really funny women in these roles or people who are not white in these roles. So it's a novelty that I enjoyed and I would watch it again, but I do not recommend that all productions, like while you can pick and choose and take jokes and blocking and things like that, the casting is the thing that for me is like, this is a novelty.
This feels gimmicky. This doesn't feel yeah.
Yeah. But I still did enjoy the gimmick, but I don't recommend people today replicate the gimmick because it's limiting.
Yeah.
Okay, so Elyse, would you recommend the Globe's 2012 production As a View in a Classroom?
Personally, no. I would recommend it, like an excerpt from it for like a theater history class or like a Shakespeare specific class for the purpose of seeing what original practice is. But for studying Twelfth Night, it's a hard pass for me.
Okay. I would recommend, but I would only recommend it in tandem with something that's more modern, a more contemporary production to see like the quote unquote original practice with something that's like a modern, more relevant production. But if I was only to pick one, I would not pick the Globe in a classroom.
Mm-hmm. That's fair. I think on that note, let's pivot to our final production that we watched. This is the 2017 National Theatres production, which was directed by Simon Godwin and features Oliver Chris as Orsino, Phoebe Fox as Olivia, Tamsin Greig as Malvolia, Tamara Lawrence as Viola, among others.
Mm-hmm.
This one I watched 4 years ago for the first time. So this was a rewatch for me. This was your first watch of this?
It was, yeah.
Okay.
Aside from a couple clips that I had seen, specifically Tamsin Greig's Malvolia, I watched a couple clips of that prior, but this is my first time watching it, and this production is set in a more contemporary time period, early 20th century. Like parts of it to me felt very 1920s, very Great Gatsby, very jazz. The production used a really cool stage tool, a rotating stage, in order to help connect scenes and add kind of that cinematic in between of action to help tell the story and move the story. And overall, it had so much like it was fun. It was funny. The actors I knew what they were saying, and I would definitely watch it again. I would recommend it. And I think it was a success.
I agree. I really enjoy this version. I think that if you're going to watch a staged version, this is about as good as you can get. This, as you said, feels very contemporary. It feels very accessible in terms of the language, in terms of the storytelling. That set is incredible. And I think that Tamsin Greig does an incredible job as Malvolia.
Yeah. Yeah, she's my highlight in the cast.
I think this is, for me, out of all the ones that we watched, this is the one where I understand why Malvolia or Malvolio is hated by everyone. Like there's something I didn't mention about the Globes was there's a moment where somebody went, "Aw," for Malvolio. And I was like, oh no, the audience likes Malvolio.
Yeah.
And with this one, you completely understand that this person is an annoying stick in the mud.
Yes. This one really links in the Twelfth Night dialogue that may or may not have existed, whether you know it or not. Again, the audience that is seeing this probably doesn't know the things that we or other scholars know, but this Puritan Malvolio or Malvolia, but like the absolutely unbearable, menacing, wet blanket Puritan Malvolia comes across from beginning to end, and you don't really feel bad for her at the end. Like she got what was coming to her. I mean, I will say they have a very long like moment with Malvolia at the end that in some ways it's like, oh man, like I feel not aw, but I feel like damn, like what is she gonna do?
I think this one shows me that your Festi really has to deliver some of those final lines about thus the whirligig of time brings in his revenges. That has to be so clear that like this is all because Malvolio was rude to Festi at the very beginning. That's the one time where we see Malvolio really insult somebody, say that Festi's not good at his job, and then that's an inciting incident for this. And we know that because Festi brings it up, quotes it at the end, back at Malvolio. And this Festi does a really good job. And this Festi is, I didn't mention it earlier, but Dune McKitchen, really good job of making that very clear.
Yeah, I enjoyed this Festi, and there was a lot of natural integration into music into this production. And Festi had like they utilized music and like what can a musical clown be in like the 1920s. I will say the one thing that I've noticed from so many Twelfth Nights that is a struggle for me, and this one unfortunately does do that, is that it opens with the dramatization of the shipwreck. And for me, when it starts with the shipwreck, it takes a few scenes for the comedy to come back because it's so intense. I just saw The Folgers back in May, and they also started with the shipwreck. And so rather than starting with 1-1 with If Music Be the Food of Love, Play On, where Orsino was being over the top and dramatic and just like a total, not a fuckboy. What is he? He's more like a
himbo.
A himbo. But when the play starts with a shipwreck, for me, it feels like it takes a few scenes for the tone to get out of drama into like, this is funny.
Yeah, it puts us into the top of the Tempest versus the top of this play, which is If Music Be the Food of Love, Play On. I agree. I think the only one for me that it really works for is the Trevor Nunn film because we get to see even more before that. And so we understand.
Yeah.
And we are also not like watching it live. Watching it live is very different.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would agree that I don't think it's necessary to start with a shipwreck. I think that, especially the way that this production does the introduction of Viola, that she's in a hospital bed and wakes up and says, "What country friend is this?" I think that's a very valid choice. And like, we would have gotten a sense of what happened to her even without the actual staging of the wreck.
Yeah. Yeah. But this production like gets on track with tone in terms of like the comedy, and like Cesario and Olivia are so funny together. Olivia really like picks up her comedy, and it's so funny to see this kind of erratic Olivia who's just like head over heels and cannot control she cannot control herself. I wish that she was performing this in an open air thrust so she could really play with the audience. Also, in the I Am the Man speech, this Viola omitted the line about being a poor monster, which I thought was a great choice, especially when we think about how sometimes people do that, like, what is it that Dr. Sawyer Kemp says?
Pants not trans.
Yes, yeah. And so I thought that was I thought it was a good choice to not have Viola use that kind of language while dressed as Cesario.
Yeah.
And for me, this Orsino is my favorite. He's like a 40-year-old bachelor who is, I think I just wrote down Orsino is 40. And I feel like that explains so much about who Orsino is.
Yep.
Because they have a scene where it's his birthday and he has a button that says
Big 40 or something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. Oliver Chris, we also enjoyed him in Midsummer Night's Dream. He was Oberon.
Oh, I love when things come together with
Yeah.
different actors. And Toby and Andrew are so funny. They have great chemistry. The dancing, the Gilliard was so funny. The like both Sir Andrews in the Globe and in the National are like highlights for
Hmm.
me because they really lean into just how oblivious Andrew is, and it's really effective.
Yeah. I also think that we have a great Fabian in both,
Mm-hmm.
which is a part that I sometimes see combined with other parts because it's, this guest in Olivia's house who shows up very late in the structure of the play as an additional person who's been wronged by Malvolio. So to have just like two really good ones in two different productions is incredible.
Mm-hmm.
And a big highlight for me in this one is the letter scene.
Mm.
Malvolia is annoyed by the audience giggling at their anticipation of the her C's, her U's, her T's, and thus makes she her great P's joke. You just see Malvolia trying to get them to be quiet and not giggle while she's trying to read, and it's a really good joke. Like she sees what's going, she's just like, oh no, don't laugh, stop laughing. Which again, like an open air space would be really cool to see that much interaction with, and could have gotten such bigger laughs.
Yeah. And then they do a great job of showing the hypocrisy because as soon as she
Mm-hmm.
realizes, oh, it's not real, but she thinks this is about me, then she starts like getting in the fountain and like they have a fountain with running water on stage and like celebrating. And it's that, the Puritans are not so much different than Merry England. They're just a bunch of hypocrites who they're no better than any of us. They just pretend like they are.
Yeah.
This one was way more gay than the
Yes.
other two.
Overtly gay Antonio.
Yes. And Sebastian and Antonio shared a kiss early on.
Mm-hmm.
That was a reciprocal kiss. Also, the ending leans into Orsino
Mm-hmm.
being bisexual, is what I got out of the ending. But I wish that they had explored that a little bit more early on. Orsino and Viola is always difficult for me because even though they end up together, they spend far less time together on stage. And so the actors have to really work to
Yeah.
make us go, oh, that makes a lot of sense. Besides just saying, I wish I were his, his mistress.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they've got one scene where you can see them being in love with each other, which is the and it's of course the scene where he's, in this one it's his birthday party, but it's where he's talking about how like women don't love as much as men do, and
Mm-hmm.
she has to be in love with him and deliver the Patience on a Monument speech and say that like women love just as hard, and like you have that. Like that's the scene that you have to really.
Yeah.
And there's a song in there, so they used it very well to like give those two a moment while the song was happening.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, you've got very little time to convince the audience that these two are in love and denying it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, Kourtney, would you recommend the National Theater's production of Twelfth Night in a classroom?
Yes. Absolutely, I would. I think this is, of the three that we watched, the one that is the most relevant and the one that I think students will connect to the most, and they'll see Shakespeare as alive and something that they can adapt in the future.
I agree. I think that this one is the most fun, which is also important to consider when showing students Shakespeare, is that it can be fun.
Yes.
Well, typically we go through and do our, mashup of our dream version. What would it be?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. We could do main characters and then like a couple of subplots.
Sure. Right off the top, favorite Viola.
The National.
For me, it's a tie between The National and the Trevor Nunn film. Favorite, let's also do Orsino and Olivia.
Orsino, The National. Olivia, I hate to say it, but none of them were my favorite. I think that there's parts that I want to combine of The National and The Globe because I liked The National's. She really played into how erratic Olivia becomes when she falls in love or thinks that when she falls in love with Cesario. But I wish they had solidified more her power in the house, which they did in the Globe. Like there's this because of the topsy-turviness,
Mm-hmm.
and I felt like Mark Rylance's Olivia, though self-indulgent, you could see, oh, this is the person who is the head of this household. And the National didn't have that kind of status amongst her house, which means that contrast, I wish that we could like mash up the contrast in my, does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I understand that. I think for me, the National wins out because for me, her house is already topsy-turvy and she's already lost control of it because Sir Toby and Sir Andrew are doing whatever they want. So I don't mind it as much. But yeah, I think that's a really good point, though, of like a combination of the status of one and the zaniness of the other would be a great combination for an Olivia. Speaking of, I'm going to kind of lump them together because I think this like subplot works best when you look at them as a unit. The Sir Toby, Sir Andrew, Mariah, Festi, Fabian grouping.
My favorite for that grouping is the Globe.
For me, it's the National and the Globe. I would do a sort of like mix and match of them. I would take the Mariah from the Globe and put that characterization of Mariah in with the National and enjoying them for different reasons.
Oh, they're both great groupings.
Both great
Yeah.
groupings.
Yeah.
So, and then Sebastian and Antonio.
Okay, so my favorite Antonio is from the National, but my favorite Sebastian actor is from the Globe.
I'd agree with that.
Yeah. So I would like to mash them together and then make it still very gay.
Yeah. I also really enjoyed the Sebastian at the Globe. I thought he was very clear.
Yes.
And I would do the same thing. Keep it gay.
Yeah.
And last but not least, I believe the sea captain. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah. I was like, hold on, what?
Malvolio.
The National, Malvolia.
Same. Tamsin Greig all the way.
Yeah. Yeah. I think Stephen Fry is funny, but I think that Tamsin Greig just understands the contrast of Malvolio's Puritan hypocrisy. She understands, and it's so menacing, so scary, and she deserves what she gets.
And then she goes so broad. We didn't talk about it, but her yellow stockings and cross-gartered is a striptease, like a burlesque striptease number.
Yes.
And so you really get like just how extreme this like idea is.
And I think that goes to like what I like about Twelfth Night and what I want from Twelfth Night is that topsy-turviness, like the total contrast. So we can see just how ridiculous everyone is being. And then Festi is like the sane one in the household.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then I just love, speaking of that, I love the fun that the National has. To me, I feel like I'm watching actors who really know the play and really know what they're saying have the facility to play. And like it looks like they are actually having fun. And so that just ups the fun that the audience is able to have with it as well.
Yeah. And how can you not have fun when the elephant is turned into a nightclub that ends up having a drag queen singing a musical version of a Hamlet soliloquy? How can you not enjoy that?
Yeah. Just to wrap up, I'm so glad that we went back and watched these. It was a delight to revisit them, and maybe we should redo Macbeth too, because we never watched anything for that.
No, I think that would be a fantastic future bonus. Oh, and listeners, enjoy your 12th night holiday.
Well, it'll be a couple weeks.
Well,
but yes. Thank you for listening.
I'm Kourtney Smith.
And I'm Elyse Sharp.
This is Shakespeare Anyone?
Thank you so much for listening to Shakespeare Anyone. Works referenced in this episode are available in the episode description. Our theme music is Neverending Minute by Sounds Like Sander.
If you would like to support us, visit shakespeareanyone.com/support or check out the links in our episode description. You can also hit the subscribe button, like us, leave a comment, write a review, share us on social media, tell a friend about us, all the things. We'd appreciate it. For more, you can visit our website, shakespeareanyone.com, or follow us on Instagram at shakespeareanyonepod.
Now, because you listened all the way to the end of the credits, here is a completely random Shakespeare quote for you.
John Patrick Nill, co-playwright of Never Fear Shakespeare. From Merry Wives of Windsor, Act 2, Scene 2, said by Falstaff. Putting the attractions of my good parts aside, I have no other charms.